So, one of the biggest challenges in automation and AI is not building the system itself. It's actually explaining the value in a way that the decision makers can understand. And this is the challenge that I literally faced while working with my clients. One of the things that I faced is most of the times I was technical. I explain things in a technical way. I was really interested the client to understand how does the workflow work, what are the steps that I'm going to take, and all that. But later I discovered that that's not really what they want. I made two essential changes. These changes are value and visualizing the value. First of all, I help them understand what is the value that they are going to get, and I help them visualize the value that I created for them. So today in this video, this is actually me practicing to share the value, this value creation process, and the impact of the system automation to my client. Is visualizing the value that I created and see the impact of the business beyond the workflows. So essentially, this video exists to show you how value is created and just not how the workflow runs. So here is my value creation system. It's essentially an 8-step system that involves defining the ideal client avatar. You should know who you're serving and why you're serving, and analyzing currently where they are, what are their current pain points, and having a simple explanation of what's the solution that you're going to provide, and then further breaking down a full system on how is it going to work, what are the resources needed, etc. Also, major benefits. This, I call it a sandwich value overlay, which after the full breakdown, for it not to be overwhelming with technical stuffs, it's important to bring back the clients to what are the really major benefits that they are going to get with this system implementation. Also, further to visualizing the value that we created with value dashboard, and we are going to further look to the areas of impact and the perceived value, and analyzing what's the after state transformation. The before state is the pain point, and when you get the solution, what's the transformation that they're going to get. And most of all, which is last but not least, is the cost of not taking action. This is one of the most important. So this is our 8-step value creation system. If you're a business owner and you want to see currently in my business, where do I really need automation, or just an overview, where do I need value to be created? And I came to realize that with this analysis, it helps you to understand what is really needed in my business, or if maybe you're working with a team, an AI automation team, both of you to be aligned in the same page. So at the end of the day, the service that you want to your clients, you get to deliver them, because we are going also to look at a case study. So essentially, what motivated me to create these videos is when I faced this challenge and implemented this value creation system, I saw some sort of improvement. But with everything, there is more to be learned. So this is more of like a practice session and sharing how do I create these values and how do I help visualize the values to my clients so as they can understand more of the system. So we're going to be doing different case studies in these practice sessions. So we are going to work with a construction point of view case study for today. So now the first important step in value creation is defining who is my ideal client avatar. I know perhaps you've heard this term a lot. It's still the same term, it's still the same application for this kind of service. So first of all is defining, yes, this system, who is it for? Like, who is my client? What are their pain points? What's their motivation? And what's the status of their decision making power? Can they make the decision at all? So we are going to work with a case study throughout, and our case study for today is business owners in construction engineering. So this can be like business owners have construction companies like maybe roofing, plumbing, mechanical, that sort of thing. So who is it for? So my ideal client currently with this case study are business owners or CEO or even project managers who are responsible for managing projects. And essentially, currently, they need AI integration for planning and monitoring of these projects. And currently, their pain points are they're overwhelmed by just a lot of project data, perhaps they receive from their team, etc. And they experience cost overruns, cash flow issues in their project, delays, and this has a large impact in the risk exposure. Another pain point for our client case study is the need for high level insights without all these spreadsheets, Excel, etc. It's really important to analyze what's the motivation, like what's the real goal for our client in this point of view. Our motivation goal for our client is profitability. They want to make profit out of the project that they're executing, and most of all, they want to execute it with high efficiency. With that, this involves delivering projects on time and predictable outcomes and clear reporting. So, whenever there's a risk, they would really love to catch it high, um, and also to do analysis and have predictable outcomes. Another issue, we are going to look at the decision making power claim. So, with decision making power, we're going to analyze currently, do they have a power to implement, do they have authority within the company, are they business owners, do they have a authority to make this high measure decision power, because implementing a system in a business should have somebody who has the power to make decisions. And this system is very, very important because if perhaps you did all this, you analyzed who is my client, what are the pain points, what are the motivation, and then later you came to discover perhaps the nature of the client that I had does not have a power to make decision whether the system to be implemented or even high level decisions. It's a good state because they can further direct you to the person who has decision making power, or they can even refer you to maybe another small business who would also use the system. So it's really important, and also this helps you to resolve further delays or any other, I mean, potential in implementing your project. So from the start, you know who's my client, who am I working with, and does he have the power to make decision for, I mean, a decision to implement such a system. And with that, it's also good. These steps helps you also to know another thing, which is with these pain points, do they really need the system? Do they really need the AI automation currently? And if they don't need it currently, is it a matter of time? Like later they would need it. So like this client, even if is not my client currently, can be a potential client in the future, or with the state of their company, do they not need automation at all? This is also important to analyze because at the end of the day, you'd want a service that is beneficial to your client, and your client should really have the transformation they need. Their needs should be met. That's how you deliver a good service. So this to summarize it, this is a system for business owners in construction and engineering that help them go from feeling overwhelmed by maybe a lot of project data and costly surprises to confidently use AI driven insights to optimize resources, prevent delays, and deliver profitable on time projects. So with us knowing our ideal client, the next step is also very important, is to further analyze this need, this pain first. So, moving to our second step, we're going to analyze what is our need for our client, further interpreting the pain points. So, with our case study, this looks like there are different reports that takes a long time to be developed and reach people. Also, cost overruns, and mostly they can be discovered too late. Delays are explained, but mostly they're not predicted. Also, there's a lot of cash flow problems that arise during execution of the project, and they show up when it's like really there's really need of cash, or in a state that it's already painful to the project. Also, managing decisions, they can be reactive most of the time. So essentially, by the time that the report arrives, the damage is already done. So this is the before state. Don't- With you have highlighted all the pain points. Now you know what kind of system do my client needs. This cannot be like nitty gritty, but it's just like sort of overview of the system. Now you have this in mind. It's very good to communicate it to the client before further breaking down in a non-technical point of view. So with a case study, it can look like at a high level, this system works like a digital project control office. Like this system works like a digital project control officer, like somebody who controls the project in a digital point of view. And further, like the system, how it works is essentially you as a project manager, you ask a question, the AI understands the context, maybe the queries of cost, schedule, and commercial system, updates the dashboards, and returns a decision ready answer in seconds. So this is non-technical expansion is very important. It positions you to see, like, okay, in one sentence, what does this system do? Oh, I know there's a lot of workflows. I know there's a lot of technical issues. In one sentence, what does it do? And when you further explain also the flow of the system, if it's possible in a non-technical language, this simple expansion system it's really important because sometimes we can be very overflown over the details and miss like the whole point, and you can go deep and generate all this workflow, but you have missed the essential need of the client. So when you are clearing this, it's a very good time to go to the next step, which is now step number 4, which is a full system breakdown. So remember, here we're working with the client. So of course, it depends on the project. Sometimes the client also can be technical, but otherwise, most of time a client can be somebody who is a business person and maybe not interested in technical that much stuff. So doing a full system breakdown is also important with less technical like jargon. We have a room to extract the value in it and explain it as what the client needs. So as you can say, okay, this is what I want, and this guy is taking action to deliver with the needs that I want. So this can look like this, the workflow itself. This involves a project manager, it can be an executive asking a question, maybe on WhatsApp or etc., and having a project control officer that understands this request. And then the next step can be now analyzing the request itself. Remember, this request can be a cost, schedule, or a claims, and this involves the AI will check the memory, like the project history, the issues, the last report, and ask itself which system does it need. If it's a cost related, it can further check maybe the BOQ, the actual cost plan, the forecast. If it's delay, it can look at the schedule, the programs, the critical path. If maybe there's a variation, can further analyze the variation, the claims, what are maybe change order status, etc. On the cash flow, can see what are the current payments, certificates received, what's the gap, maybe there's a certain retention being held or change orders. With that in place, the dashboard is then updated with maybe profit, delay, and different cash flow, and a decision ready insight is sent to the management in seconds. With this overflow explanation, it's important so as you can visualize like this is the system that's going to need, and sometimes it can even break to further discussion on the resources later. If you want to see what's the resources needed to execute the system, it's also a good place to come back to and implement, of course, the project. So this full system breakdown is important to the client. Now, with this full system breakdown, it's important to interpret what does this mean in terms of the impact that's going to happen, which is moving further to step number 6. I mean, step number 5, major benefit. Like, okay, you have shown me the system. So now let's come back to what's the value. Remember, our process here is value creation system. So what are the major benefits, like with all this full breakdown that you did to me? So this is what I called a sandwich value overlay. With this, we all remember the pain points, right? Which was step number 2. After analyzing the ideal client, we saw the pain points. We further analyzed the pain points. So number 5 is highlighting the major benefits. And all this, it's a process that starts from when you discovered your client and you analyzed your client. So, for example, for a case study, the before state, like the report used to take days. So now one of the major benefit is on the reporting time. Out. I prefer to go to the KPI system measurable. So one of the major benefits is the reporting time. Maybe previously it was 3 days. This can be translated maybe to 5 seconds. The cost overruns are discovered too late. So this can be translated to one of the major benefit will be they'll be detected early. And what does this mean? Maybe 4% margin will be saved. Previously, the delays are explained, maybe they're not predicted. Now, the delay risk could be visible 2 weeks earlier, potential. See the delay risk. Cash flow problem show up when it's already painful. So now we'll have a cash flow forecast accuracy of about 30%. Management decisions are reactive. Now staff hours will be maybe served, and this will impact on the performance of the team, etc. Yeah. So you understand this is how you can like link to the previous analyzed pen, and the client can see what's the major benefit with the impact on their system at large. So that's step number 5. Now with major benefits in place, it's good to go and visualize further, like how does this come into place. So visualize further this value that we created, the impact, what does it mean? Now with the visualization, I'm talking about a dashboard. The impact when talking to my client, when explaining our value creation system to my client, is visualizing the value that we created. So as one can understand what, okay, at the end of the day, what does it really mean in a visual point of view. So for example, we remember our workflow basically was if the project has any queries will be answered in a angle of cost, schedule, risk, etc. So this is what it means. This is a dashboard that here above it has our KPIs that are important. For example, this is essentially maybe the budget. Remember, this is just like a sample project, a sample data, so as to visualize. So this is not real data. So for example, this is the total budget of the project, and here is analyzing what's my performance, what does it mean, am I above or under budget? Okay, currently with my schedule, am I in front or behind this schedule? So yes, I'm under budget, but if you take note you're behind schedule, this is a very also a good interpretation. Also, you see what's the cash gap and what does it mean. So maybe retention, and here we have alerts. Also, potential claims. This is a very important KPI in our dashboard, and here it gives you also a warning eye. Another issue is analyzing the impact you see in terms of planned and value. This S-curve issue is a very famous performance indicator or analysis in a construction field, which essentially analyzes the planned versus end versus the cost, and this is viewed in different timeline. What's the end value? What's the cost? And how are we moving up to now? And this is viewed both in a cost and in a timeline point of view and in a money point of view. So this is a very important analytics. Another issue is a cost, which is a cash flow forecast in a monthly basis. And this we can see in terms of inflow, outflow. For example, maybe when we do analysis in week number 4, the inflow was high of money. Maybe we received payment, they received payments, that's why. And maybe expenditure for week number 3, yeah, also it was somehow high compared to others. There's maybe reasons for that, but we see all this month like the work done was also high and the inflow was high. So a lot of money came in and also a lot of money was being used. This is the focus, like maybe the next month with the schedule and all that. So maybe previous months they were behind schedule, so as to pull in front of schedule, there are works that are going to be compensated for. That's why a lot of here read like we are predicting a lot of outflow to come to the project. So if we have to be in front of the schedule, that means we need a lot of money to execute our tasks. So it's also important. Another year we can see estimated completion. So if you are not a construction person, this is basically like this was the original budget maybe, and this is perhaps the cost spent to date. And if you are behind schedule, like what's the estimated cost at completion? This is important. Also in terms of cash, in terms of cost, any potential retention held, what have we billed to date, what's the received payments, also risk analysis. For example, here a lot of risk is in terms of design changes. Maybe this raises an opportunity of change order and maybe the things you did outside the scope. So you can raise variation and maybe additional money to the project. Now, with all these executive insights are made. So in major issues, for example, profit at completion forecast. Here I can see previously the business had this project specifically had a 10.5 profit margin planned, but until now, like it's 8%. And here are key metrics. For example, it's 8% profit and the project at completion is 68% planned. So far with the speed and how we're being scheduled 8% and the cash flow used is 8%. We are not even yet 100%. So with this insight, you see what decision can you make as a management. We see there are insights on schedule. Here we are told that there's a risk alert. Okay, there's a cash gap. Okay, and here also there are critical metrics, profit margin, variance, etc. We can also export the full report and all that. So this dashboard is really, really important. It helps a client to remove him from this AI automation issue and just stick to what does he need in his business and visualize what does the impact look like. So this dashboard, honestly, it was one of the major transformation and I'm still learning. Yep, I wanted to share with you. Further, okay, now remember the step. The dashboard view was essentially step number 6, which was the value dashboard, and areas of impact. So we have analyzed the pain point, we have created the system, we have viewed the value, they have visualized the value in terms of the dashboard. So at the end of the day, what is really overall in a bird's eye view the transformation that they are going to get? Now this it's a very good important step, which is step number 7. So what's the transformation? So essentially for a case study, after this system, the executive or directors will be able to see the project health in real time. Also, the team will help to focus on strategy, not just reporting. The cash flow is forecasted and not guessed, and decision will be proactive and not reactive. So it's important to like group together and see what's the transformation that the client will eventually have. And this next step is also important. Yes, we have seen what's the benefit of this system. Now, what's the cost of not having the system itself, the cost of inaction? So, for our context, since it's a project, we have seen in our dashboard that previously the cost margin planned was 10.5%. And with currently our project has 68% completion, with the cash flow used, with the expenses or the expenses used, we have left with 8% potential target. So the target has reduced by 2.5. Now, with this analysis, we have known it at the 68% point with this system because it has taken us fast to get this data. We can see, first of all, what can we do to go back to our baseline, our planned 10.5, and also what further can we do maybe to increase our profit margin. Maybe you can look at the risk, the design changes, maybe the client, we can ask for more money, maybe we are doing extra works of design, there's a lot of variation. So this information, getting it in time, it really help to increase the profit. So this is what I mean by cost of taking inaction. Without the system like this, project bleed margin silently. So imagine we didn't discover this, which the 2.5 decreased at 68%. What if we reach 100% without discovering the information and taking action? How much profit would be lost? So this system prevents the project to bleed silently month after month. So it's important the client to know what's the cost of not taking action. So here's the explanation of my system, and just in case you want the dashboard, just comment the word dashboard and I'll share with you the dashboard. So here's what I wanted to do: recap two things, because we have analyzed the pain point of the client, and at the end of the day, we've just like not much sketched out, but just see the potential workflow that you're going to have or the solution, and we have extracted the transformation of this solution, or we have created the value. So with your client, you can do a quick recap, because sometimes you can fall into a lot of discussion and a lot of exchanging points. So it's good to do a recap. So at the end of the day, with the current position that the client is in and the pain points, these are the workflow. You explain to the client the workflow. For example, for our case study, the workflow is the project manager asks the question, and the AI understands, works on the queries, the dashboard is updated, and the decision registered is sent to the management in seconds. Also, it's good to recap the KPI. What's the transformation they seek? Because at the end of the day, the client wants to go from point A to point B. So the client wants to go from A to B. And with all these, two things will help him. First of all, the value created, or this AI automation system, and the transformation that they seek while they are at their point B. So with this in mind, it's good to analyze the workflow. I love really to insist it, because they can visualize like this workflow will help them reach at point B. And the KPI is what B looks like, what's the end point. So for this major KPI, which are the major benefit, it can look like a reduction in reporting time, cost overruns, impact on delay, cash flow, etc. So this recap, it's good. It's very important, so as you can end on the same note with the client. So if you're a business owner and you'd really love to analyze your business currently, where is it at and what's your basic needs, you can definitely book a free project automation audit, and I'll show exactly where your money is leaking or what value needs to be created in your business. So thank you so much, and I'll eventually proceed. Love to say, as my way of practicing this value creation system, which previously had practiced it and had a really impact in my clients, and I'll love to share it with you guys. And I'll love to see you next time with another case study while we practice our value creation system. Thank you. Bye bye.